Today, I'm going to teach you the 4 verbs past tenses. And these are the simple past, past continuous, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. Let's begin with the simple past. Structure. In writing a sentence using a simple past tense, of course, we always begin with a subject and paired it with the past tense of the verb. The main function of the simple past is it is used when something happened in a specific time. It means that an action happened in the past in a specific period of time. For examples, I went to our old house yesterday. So let's try to check first the structure of how a simple past is being used in this example. We have here I as our subject, then we have here went as our verb, and went is the simple past tense or the past tense of the verb go. We cannot say I go to because go is in the present tense. We cannot say neither I gone to because gone is the past participle form of the verb go. So went is the past tense of the verb go. So I went to our old house yesterday. If you can see here, we have here the past time expression yesterday. And please take note that the main function of the simple past is an action that happened in the past in a specific time. So in our example here, we have here yesterday that tells us when that particular action happened in the past, and it was yesterday. Another example here, she graduated last year. We have here our subject she, and she is a singular subject. And of course, it doesn't matter here because we are already using past tense of the verb. And FYI, when we talk about past tense, it does not matter anymore if your subject is a singular or a plural. Okay? Because you can always use a past tense of the verb to both your singular and plural subject. Okay? Then graduated here is our simple past tense. The base form of the verb for graduated is graduate. Okay? Then graduated is the past tense. So she graduated last year. And last year here is our past time expression. The phrase last year tells us when she graduated. It was last year. And always remember that part of the pattern in writing a sentence in a simple past tense is it is most of the time expressed with a past time expression. Some examples of past time expressions are yesterday, last week, 2 days ago, and last night. Now let's proceed to the past continuous structure. We begin with, as always, the subject followed with was or were, and using was or were always depends on your subject. If your subject is singular, then you're going to pair it with was. If your subject is plural, then you're going to pair it with were. Then the present participle form of the verb. The first function of the past continuous is it is used when a longer action in the past was interrupted. Okay? And the interruption is usually a shorter action. Okay. Analyzing the first function, it is giving us or it is telling us that the past continuous involves 2 past actions. And these 2 past actions are described as the longer action and the shorter action. Okay? And the shorter action here is the one interrupting our longer action. For example, I was watching TV when my phone rang. So we are going to find the 2 actions or past actions involved in the sentence. We have here was watching, and the other action here is rang. Now, the rule that we are going to apply for the longer action is that it is going to be expressed using the past continuous structure. So it means that was watching here, or I was watching here, is the longer action because it is expressed in the past continuous structure. As you can see in here, we have here our subject I, the helping or linking verb was, and followed with watching, our present participle. And that means, or it is telling us that I was watching is our longer action, okay? And in here, our longer action comes first. And it is being interrupted with another action. And that another action or that interruption is just a shorter action. And that shorter action in this example is the verb rang. And it says in the function, a shorter action in the simple past tense. It means to say that we are not going to have a double past continuous structures in the example. We cannot say, I was watching TV when my phone was ringing. We cannot do that. In our shorter action, or the action that was interrupting our first or longer action, we are just going to use the simple past tense of the verb. That is why we have here rang, because rang is the simple past tense of the verb ring. Okay? I will repeat. The longer action is the one being expressed in the past continuous structure. So this will be our longer action. I was watching and my phone rang. This will be our shorter action that is expressed in the simple past tense. Okay? Another example here. While Jane was sleeping last night, someone stole her wallet. So first, let us find the two past actions involved. We have here was sleeping and the other one is stole. Okay? And it is understood that while Jane was sleeping, the subject, the helping or linking verb was, and sleeping as our present participle, since it is expressed in the past continuous structure, then it is telling us that while Jane was sleeping is the longer action, okay? The longer action in the sentence. And then someone stole her wallet, that is just expressed in the simple past tense. Stole is the past tense of the verb steal. This will be our shorter action. And remember that a shorter action is the one interrupting the longer action, which is Jane was sleeping. Okay? Another function is it is used with a specific time as an interruption. So earlier we mentioned about an interruption, and in this function we also have interruption is just that is a specific period of time that is used as an interruption in the sentence. For example, last night at 7 p.m. she was eating dinner. Now let's find first the structure of the past continuous. We have here our subject she, followed with the linking or helping verb was, and the present participle eating. Okay? And it says earlier, it is used with a specific time as an interruption. It means that in that specific time, okay, or at 7 p.m., she was in the process of eating her dinner. Okay, that is what is meant by last night at 7 p.m. she was eating dinner. Okay, so in that particular time or at 7 p.m. she was in the process of eating her dinner. Okay, so that's the second function. We use a specific time as an interruption of our action or of the action. Okay, let's move now to the past perfect. Okay, if we have present perfect, we also have the past perfect. Okay, structure. As always, we begin with a subject. Then we have here an auxiliary verb had. Then plus the past participle form of the verb. Okay, the main function of the past perfect is that it is used when there are two past actions. Okay? So like the past continuous, past perfect also involves two past actions. The action that happened first is expressed in the past perfect, while the second action is in the simple past tense. So it has similarity with the past continuous. Okay? For example, I had finished my project before I went to sleep. Let's find first our two past actions here. We have here had finished, then went. Okay? And it says in the function, the action that happened first is expressed in the past perfect. So, I had finished here is in the past perfect. It means that finishing my project happened first before I went to sleep. So this means that had finished is our first action and I went to sleep is our second action. And it says here, the second action is in the simple past tense. That is why we say, I went to sleep. Okay? Went is the simple past tense of the verb go. I went to sleep. While our first action is using the structure of the past perfect. Subject I plus the auxiliary verb had plus the past participle finished. Okay? It means that is our first action. Another example here. Our team lost our last 4 games because we had not practiced enough. Let's find first the two past actions. The first one is lost and the other one is had not practiced. Okay? And since we have here had not practiced, so this indicates that the first action, the first past action that happened is had not practiced. So this will be our first action and our team lost. Lost is our second action here. And obviously, practicing your game or having a practice happens first before you play your actual game. Okay? So practice comes first. That is why we say here, we had not practiced. Okay? Then in our second action, which is lost, we are just using the simple past tense. Lost is the simple past tense of the verb lose. And finally, the past perfect continuous. Structure, we begin with the subject, the auxiliary verb had, then we have here the word been, then the present participle form or the present participle of the verb. Main function. It emphasizes the duration of a past action before another action happened. This still involves two past actions. So like the past perfect continuous also involves two past actions. The first action is in the past perfect continuous while the second action is in the simple past. For example, I had been teaching for 5 years before I passed the licensure examination for teachers. The only difference between the past perfect and the past perfect continuous is that here in the past perfect continuous, we have here the time duration of our first action. If you can see in our example here, we have 5 years. I had been teaching for 5 years. In our past perfect earlier, we did not indicate any time duration in our first action. While in here, we are indicating the duration of time the first action happened. Okay, I had been teaching for 5 years. And our first action here is had been teaching, and the other action in the sentence is past. And the rule says the first action is in the past perfect. So our first action is this one, had been teaching. So it happened first before I passed the examination for teachers. While the second action is in the simple past tense. That is why we used here past. Past is the past tense of the verb pass. Then we just add ed to make it into past tense. So I passed. So this will be our second action. Okay? Again, the first action is had been teaching, and our second action is passed. Or I passed the licensure examination for teachers. Then in our first action, do not forget to have the time duration. So it is 5 years. Another example. Before Jay finished his study, he had been working as a company writer for 10 years. First, let's find the two past actions here. We have here finished, and the other one is had been working. Okay? Then, our first action here, it is understood that had been working is our first action because it is expressed in the past perfect continuous structure. We have here the subject he, followed with had, then been, then the present participle working. So it means that he had been working is our first action. Then if you can see in here, we have here the time duration, 10 years. Okay? As I said earlier, this is the difference between the past perfect and the past perfect continuous. In the past perfect continuous, we indicate a time duration in our first action. Then, similarly, we used the simple past tense in our second action. Okay, finished here is our second action, while he had been or had been working is our first action. Okay? So that's how to use past perfect continuous. Before Jay finished his study, he had been working as a company writer for 10 years. And those are the verb's past tenses.